Hello there, Mad Mike here, and welcome back to the channel. And today we have more Star Wars news coming out that is kind of good and kind of bad. This is a bit of a mixed bag. And that is that the Benioff and Weiss trilogy that was going to go forward at Lucasfilm, with the first film reportedly premiering in 2022, has been canceled. Now, here's the interesting thing is that, a lot of people are saying it's canceled because Benioff and Weiss have chosen to step away from the director's chairs and from the writing room to focus on their deal that they have had with Netflix that they signed in August. But I don't necessarily think that means that these movies might not get made. I think maybe it just means that there'll be somebody else helming them. So there could be something different going on here, but the thing is that basically Benioff and both of them, Benioff and Weiss, have both come out and stated that their schedule is far too busy and they don't have enough time to dedicate to the Star Wars brand because of the reported 9-figure deal that they signed with Netflix in August. Now that is a lot of money, and I'm assuming that it's probably somewhere in the $200 million range minimum, because they are reportedly developing a lot of television and movie and films for Netflix for the foreseeable future. And this was a huge investment for Netflix, and they demanded that these guys come in. And there was speculation that this might happen because a lot of people didn't think they were going to be able to balance the two because Star Wars is very demanding, obviously, and so is Disney as a company, as well as Netflix and the role that they were being asked to play. Now, what doesn't really get mentioned in a lot of the articles is the ripple effect that this is going to have throughout throughout mainly the Star Wars franchise. Because we all know that as you know from yesterday's video, Rise of Skywalker is coming out on December 19th of this year, which is a little under 2 months away. And after that, they really don't have very much going forward in terms of the film aspect now if these films are canceled. They do have the proposed Rian Johnson trilogy, but that has been in limbo for a long time now. So we don't know when we'll be getting the next Star Wars movie. That's not necessarily a bad thing, because again, I would go to say that I think that they need to take their time if they're going to try and bring this brand back. I think that after Rise of Skywalker and after that commitment is over, I think they should put this thing on ice for a good long while, more than a couple of years. Put it on ice for 4 or 5, maybe 6 or 7. Personally, I'd say put it on ice for about 10 years before you start making something new. And give enough anticipation for it and get some good people behind it, because there's budding talent in Hollywood right now. By then they'll probably be seasoned veterans and you can get them to do good things. But the thing is that these movies that Benioff and Weiss were developing were supposed to be the Old Republic films, if we are to believe various outlets. And that's disheartening, because I was actually very much looking forward to those films, because that is a fun universe. I've played Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2 as well as the MMO, and I like the universe. I like the world. It's something that really hasn't been explored in the films all that much, and it's something that I think would have reinvigorated Star Wars to an extent, because it's not the same old story. It's not, it's the rebels and the Empire and stuff like that. It's not the same thing we've been seeing for the last 4 or 5 years. It's very, very different, and you could do it very, very different, and you could play around with these characters. You can make new characters. You can pull characters from the old expanded universe. The sky was the limit when you came to making the movies that were based in that time period. And I think Benioff and Weiss could have done a good job. I think a lot of people piled on them for the later Game of Thrones seasons, and I think rightfully so in some cases. But I think that they are capable of making good content. They are extremely capable of making good content. And I would have liked to have seen what they could have done with the Star Wars sandbox, given all that creative room to work. So there's a lot of it's very disheartening, kind of, just because that was something that I think could have worked, and I think it might have been something that could have reinvigorated Star Wars to an extent and brought the franchise back in terms of just having some kind of a presence, even though obviously after the sequel trilogy is going to end, there's going to be not many people are probably going to want to deal with Star Wars after that, but this could have been something that could have been a new beginning, and unfortunately, that is now dashed, at least from what we can see. Now, again, the early reports are that these films are canceled, despite the fact they have set release dates. But I have a funny feeling that Disney probably knew this was going to happen after Benioff and Weiss signed that deal. I think there's probably been a tug of war involving them and and Disney for a while regarding these two, because Disney had put a lot into they basically they had asked a lot of them, and they were expecting results, but I wouldn't put it out of the realm of possibility to see somebody else come in and maybe uh, take their place and continue the production of these films. I think Disney may have also had people in mind. So I have a funny feeling in the next couple of days, or maybe in the following weeks, leading up to Rise of Skywalker, or maybe right after, just as a publicity thing, they might announce that they have some other big name coming on to take over this new trilogy of films. And as I said before, Rian Johnson trilogy has been in limbo. We haven't really heard much about it from him or from Disney after its initial announcement. And there's not, even though I don't necessarily know how his film Knives Out has been doing at the box office, although, actually, sorry, I stand corrected. I don't believe that comes out until Thanksgiving. But really, that's the main focus for him right now, and I don't think we'll hear anything about his trilogy until after that movie has been released and gone on its theatrical run, especially since I don't believe that his film was supposed to be released until 2023, or at least the first one. So it's going to be interesting moving forward, but this is a setback in a lot of ways for Disney trying to keep this brand alive. And ultimately, like I said before, I think at the end of Star Wars 9, I think if it ultimately fails, as it fails to the point where it doesn't satisfy the higher ups at Disney, Star Wars could get the final nail in the coffin, and maybe this is the precursor to that, in a sense, where these movies are now being canceled, and maybe they're not going to carry on with Rian Johnson, and they're just going to end the brand for a while. Which, again, I don't think is a bad idea. I think that this brand has been worn out in the last 4 to 5 years. With the acquisition and with all the films that have come out, and also with the very vitriolic reaction to some of the more recent films, and putting it on ice for a while is probably for the best in terms of trying to reinvigorate it later on. And like I said, I don't think Disney will put it on ice for 10 years. That's my number that I would give it, because I think that that's really the only way you're going to get anticipation again. But I think they'll put it on ice for at least a solid 5 if Rise of Skywalker does not make the numbers that they want it to make. But this is just kind of an interesting little tidbit of news, and I think it does have a lot of ripple effects going forward. Mainly for Disney, but somewhat for Netflix as well, because we're going to be seeing more shows coming out from them, and films coming out from them on Netflix, and I'm interested to kind of see where those go. So, but I want to know your thoughts. Were you excited about the Benioff and Weiss trilogy? Did you think that they would make good Star Wars writers and directors? Are you happy that they're going to Netflix instead and kind of leaving Star Wars alone, and taking trying to reinvigorate that streaming service? Put your thoughts in the comments below. I'd like to know what you're thinking. Hit the bell notifications, hit the like button, subscribe, and remember, I live my life free of compromise. Do you?